Hey guys, welcome back to HackIson's Linuxplained series. In our first video, we are going to discuss about what is Linux. So first, let me explain you about what is Linux, and then we'll move on. Okay. So Linux is an operating system. Especially, we have to mention the main thing is this Linux is an open source operating system. Okay, unless like Windows is a premium version where you have to pay money for getting the product key, but Linux is not like that. Linux is an open source thing, and there are lots of tons and tons of developers are working on Linux day to day. Every day they are working to make Linux better. So Linux is open source, which has been discovered in 1991 by Linus Torvalds. Most of the people would know about him. He is a computer science student who discovered Linux and rolled over it as an open source project. Okay, so it's completely free. You can do anything else. There is no copyright issue. There is nothing else. You can customize it. You can add your own codes, and that's the main plus point and plus point of Linux. Okay, first, and one more thing I have to mention about an operating system. So what operating system is? So then you can easily figure out Linux. Okay, operating system is a software program which helps your computer hardware to communicate with the software. Okay, this Linux system also does the same thing as Windows. Usually Windows, what it will do now, it will communicate. It will help your hardware to it will helps your computer hardware to communicate with your computer software. Okay, any software. Without this operating system, your softwares are useless, so it can't communicate with anything, and it can't produce any result. So that's where the operating system role comes in. Okay, so it will process all the requests, and it will do an intermediate work between these two, and it will produce the results. Okay, so that's as Windows. Linux is also an operating system, but the main plus point of Linux is it is an open source project, and you can do whatever you want. Okay, but other than this, there is a special thing in Linux that it is faster than Windows. It can process each and every request faster when compared with Windows. Okay, it Windows will take some time to process the result, but whereas Linux is much faster than Windows. If you use it, you can feel it. Okay, if you're a Windows user, then definitely if you change to Linux, then you can feel the speed when compared with Windows. Okay, so the main thing of Linux is it is an open source project, and it is completely free. And now most of the when you go to the internet, most of the servers or most of the system administrators would use Linux. Okay, and Linux comes in two variant. One is GUI, and another one is client version. Client version is like terminal version, yeah, where you have to use there won't be any graphical user interface, and you have to use only the command lines. Okay, and in GUI, obviously it will looks like Windows, and it will work like Windows. You will be having a graphical user interface, and you can work with anything else. Okay, mostly for home users, they will be going with GUI version of Linux, and whereas system administrators or other professionals will be using client version. Okay, mostly for maintaining server, they will be using client. That means the terminal is nothing but where it's like a command prompt in Windows, where you will be executing some commands. There are lots of commands we'll be discussing about in the upcoming videos about those things, and I'll be explaining you about what is terminal in a separate video in detail. So let me give you a short intro. It's like a command prompt where you will be executing commands, and you will be getting the results in the command prompt itself. Okay, and in Windows you'll be calling it as command prompt, and in Linux you'll be calling it as terminal. Okay, so that's the two variant in Linux. One is GUI, that is graphical user interface, and another one is client version UI. We will be only having the user interface. Okay, so these are all the two variants, and there are lots of distributions available under Linux. Okay, distributions, we call it as in another way we call it as distros. Okay, distributions, it has lots of distributions. Like the popular distributions are Ubuntu, Red Hat, Debian, Manjaro Linux, and Kali Linux for security purpose, and Parrot OS, and lots of Linux are there. Not only these things, I have shown you an example of this list, okay? But there are lots of variant in Linux. There are lots of variant distributions in Linux. And if you wish, you can also create your own Linux and customize your own Linux. That's a main plus point of Linux operating system. And that's why now in this 21st century, most of the people are using Linux, and they are changing to Linux when it comes to a security purpose or system administrators. They'll be using Linux. So this is the short intro about Linux. Hope you all have gathered a knowledge about what Linux is. Okay. So see you on the next video.